Hey Ross, as a gift to this channel I will do a debate with you through video responses on the God Consent YouTube channel. Now that that has been stated, I will start off this editorial debate with you on the subject of applying the free market to everything and the realities of what the consequences to it would be. First, I would like to address with you the subject of having an entirely market-based police force. In our country's history, we had something similar to that during the days of alcohol prohibition. Al Capone had the money to buy off the Chicago Police Department, and they looked the other way on everything he did, since he could pay more money to them than the city of Chicago could during that time in American history. Countries that are similar to that time in American history are Russia and the Philippines of today. The Russian mafia can buy off the Russian security forces, since they have more financial resources than the average Russian citizen has available to them. As a result, the police corruption in Russia would be considered a racketeering enterprise here in America. They live under the thumb of financial racketeering-based tyranny since, capitalism is the government in Russia. People's needs in Russia are largely unmet, and that's why a lot of the older generations of Russians are longing for the days of the Soviet Union. Adam brought up a good point that poorer citizens would have a large disadvantage in a purely market-based police system, since they would not have the startup capital to have their own security force. In a purely private police system, the average person would have no protection of their life, liberty, and property, since it would be every man for itself. An example of this, as Adam stated, would be Somalia. And he is correct in saying it. People who have less resources and capital would be left defenseless and probably would die. What would prevent a privatized security force from taking everything you have? How would you gain restitution if the judges were paid for by the highest bidder? When corporate and state powers merge, that is fascism. What we have right now is fascism to the max, and it does not necessarily have to be Hitler fascism. You were right to point out that fascism is a form of socialism. It is socialism for those who have the most money to be able to prop themselves up with the government, while everyone else who pays taxes deals with the aspect of capitalism that causes businesses to fail in a true capitalism sense happens to everyone else. Market anarchism would only work if human beings were acting responsibly enough not to destroy the whole economy. In 1929, there was no responsibility on the part of the banks as it was with the 2008 crash. We set the precedent with the Reconstruction Finance Act under Herbert Hoover to prop up failing institutions, which lead to banks only keeping the money for themselves. In a completely unregulated market system, banks would completely have carte blanche to be able to commit fraud in banking and get away with it. Complete progressivism does not work, nor does complete privatization. So there has to be a balance, as Adam said in the broadcast before. The perfect example of what I see in terms of balance happens to be Australia. That country has the toughest immigration system on the face of the planet, since they understand that they can't afford to have people who aren't citizens be on their universal healthcare system. That is an example of a mostly free market with a universal healthcare system that works. As far as the idea that taxation is theft, in what way are you not living off that theft? I would ask this to you and Adam. Don't you guys have healthcare that is based off the taxpayer? Wouldn't you be shooting yourself in the foot if you got the wish of cutting the VA and HHS out of the federal budget completely? The same question applies to housing and urban development programs. It would be nice if we could live in a free market system. However, the only way you can do that is by getting rid of the Federal Reserve System in its entirety. Otherwise, the viability would always be in question. Don't get me wrong. Libertarians have good ideas. However, you would have to get the ball rolling by getting rid of central banking first in order for everything else to actually work. So as long as you have central banking, free markets will turn into fascism.